Hello there. Welcome to the quick introduction video of automated release notes add-on for Jira. This video is going to be of about 20 to 25 minutes and we are going to cover an initial presentation of 5-7 minutes followed by the actual product demo. Although there will be a detailed feature walkthrough in a later video, in this video we'll just touch base upon the core concepts covered by the automated release notes plugin. Without further ado, let's jump into the presentation first. My name is Anand and I'm the CEO and product owner of Amoeboids Technologies Private Limited. We are a company based out of India. You can always get to know more about us by following the link website https://amoeboids.com. Now, before we jump into the product itself, let's first understand why did we create automated release notes, or as we refer to it as ARN. Right? So, writing and communicating release notes is a tedious and painful exercise. It has a lot of moving parts, and the most problematic part of generating release notes is they are needed in different formats and are needed for different audiences, right? So for example, you have business stakeholders, you have the customer success team, you have the customer support team, you have the product management team, so on and so forth, right? So imagine your CTO or someone from your business team, right, who does not have the day-to-day visibility into your software development process. They are probably more interested in an executive summary, something like an overview document, rather than uh, wanting to know about every bug fix that goes into the release. Similarly, a sales representative is probably most interested in knowing about the latest hot features that have been requested by potential customers, right? So accordingly, you have to fine tune the content of the release notes as well as the format. So the first step is figuring out which issues are to be included in the release notes, right? So if you're using something like Jira or any other project management tool that allows you sort of split your software development process into multiple releases, you can easily do that. Then a difficult part is who are the relevant recipients and what are they supposed to know, right? So not every item in your release is going to make sense for every recipient. You don't want to convey some technical changes that have happened within your product to customer end users and customers of your product simply because it probably does not really concern them. And probably the last step in the process is communicating those release notes, dispatching those release notes in multiple formats in multiple channels to different stakeholders. So, for example, it can involve sending internal and external emails, publishing the release notes to Confluence, Zendesk, or any other public facing tool that you use internally. That is when the idea of automated release notes came into picture. So we decided, rather than spending time writing these tedious and prone to errors release notes creation process, why not create something that can generate these release notes automatically and even dispatch these notes to the relevant recipients without manual intervention. So automated release notes is meant to address needs of all the stakeholders in the software development process, right from the individual contributors who are part of your software development team, right? So um, internally, your teams, I'm sure your teams are communicating with each other as and when the releases are due, what features, what bug fixes are going to get adopted into that release, so on and so forth. So the internal quality assurance and development team, there is an existing communication happening, but it is not automated. There are some manual interfaces, uh, there are manual interventions that people communicate with each other, these things, but again these things fall through the cracks. To avoid it, you can automate this via automated release notes. Once you do the initial setup, then no further manual intervention is required. The next set of stakeholders are your business team, your managers, your executives, right? So these are the people who are not probably interested in what goes into the release day in, day out. They're most likely interested in figuring out the kind of impact this release is going to have on the business, on the end customers. So this is where you'll make use of power of the JQL, Jira query language. You'll create different templates for these type of stakeholders and generate release notes separately. And last but not the least, you have the customer facing stakeholders. These are the teams who are interested in knowing more about upcoming changes to the product or the changes that have recently happened. Again, uh, the data that's contained in the release notes for these people needs to be selective. It cannot be everything included within your release. And that is where, again, the power of JQL and multiple formats, multiple templates comes into picture. Now, what are some of the use cases that automated release notes is trying to help you with? Like I mentioned earlier, first is, of course, informing internal stakeholders when the next release is due based on scheduled triggers. So imagine there is a release due in the next 5 days, 6 days, or maybe 1 week from now. It would be ideal to inform your internal team that a release is due on so and so date, 7 days from now, and this is what the overall status of the release items looks like. Then you have sending out the featured updates to customers and keeping them engaged, right? So if certain set of customers are interested in a handful of features, or there is something specific that they are interested in knowing about, you can always ensure that the release notes are targeted towards them. Then generating release notes on demand based on a simple manual click rather than copy paste, multiple points of information from different places. Just generate your release notes on a single click. Then one of the most sought after use cases as far as ARN goes is ability to generate these release notes as and when a version is marked as released in Jira. So if you're already using Jira, you might know this, that Jira allows you to create different fixed versions or releases, and once the release goes live or is completed, you have the ability to mark that as released. And as soon as you mark that release as released or mark that version as released in Jira, it will automatically trigger a rule which in turn will involve a bunch of release notes generation actions. You can even integrate automated release notes plugin with other continuous integration and deployment tools that your team is internally using. For example, Jenkins, CI, anything that has the capability to invoke a webhook. Another interesting use case is publish the release notes directly to Confluence from Jira in a single click, or even without any click based on different triggers. Last slide of use cases. You can, using ARN, you can even generate release notes across different projects in Jira. So, for example, you might have an iOS app, you might have another Android app, but what you want to do is you want to generate a combined release note that consists of issues, features, bugs, enhancements, whatever issue types exist in your Jira from these two different projects. So with ARN, it's completely possible to do that. You can even post the release notes content in HTML or JSON formats to a predefined set of URLs. So you can consume this HTML and JSON formatted release note and then process that information on your own. This is sort of more useful when you want to format it in a certain way, when you want to maybe pull that information in another tool for whatever reason. In such cases, posting of HTML and JSON format release notes to predefined URLs becomes useful. And we have also recently added the ability to publish your release notes directly within your web applications via widgets. This is still in beta, but soon, in the next roughly about 4 to 6 weeks, we are going to enhance it further based on the feedback that we have received so far, and it's going to get better. Okay, I thought that was the last slide, but apparently it isn't. Now, given the kind of prominence that chat applications such as Slack or Microsoft Teams have gained in the recent times, what we have done is we have also provided the ability to send out release notes directly to a Slack or Microsoft Teams channel. It's fairly straightforward. These chat tools allow you to pull up a dedicated email address for a channel, and you just put that email address into the automated release notes action for email. You also have the ability to generate release notes in PDF format. Not only that, you can upload that directly to Box or Dropbox folders uh, using tools such as Zapier. Some of our customers even utilize automated release notes for generating reports that are in no way related to releases. That is simply because the kind of flexibility that is offered by the tool is unparalleled. Now, it's time for a quick walkthrough of the product. All right. So this is one of our Jira instances, and you would notice um, I've already navigated to a Jira software project, and there is a link on the left hand side for automated release notes. Right. As soon as I click on it, I'm going to land on the calendar tab, which lists all of the releases that are available within the given project. The gist of the plugin of the add-on is rules and templates. Let's first quickly look at templates and then we'll also look at rules. Calendar widgets is not going to be something that we are going to cover in this video. This is a quick introduction video, so we'll just briefly touch base upon these the templates, rules, and logs, which are the core features of the add-on, and then we'll follow up with another 45-minute, 1 hour video that will have detailed guidance on how can you utilize the product to its fullest potential. Now, when you're navigating to the templates, you'll notice a bunch of things. As soon as you click on create, you'll see a handful of different formats: email template, PDF template, Confluence template, JSON template, HTML template, right? So you can create these many different types of templates. So if I were to click on email template, I'll be brought to the template builder where you can add different JQL sections, different variables, different stats, and generate the release notes template. So the core of the templates is JQL sections. We'll cover the JQL sections in detail in the follow up video which will involve a complete walkthrough of the product. But as part of this discussion, I definitely want to show you a few sample release notes that have been generated using the tool. Now, this is a Dropbox showcase that we have created specifically to showcase the release notes generated via ARN. So, this is a PDF document. You'll notice it's fairly simplistic. It has a logo, it has the version number, and then it has a release date. Additionally, it also has a title, stories, followed by the number of stories that are involved in the release, then the summary of that story. Same follows for improvements, bugs, and so on. This is we call this a minimalistic version. It does not need much of a configuration, fairly straightforward to templatize. Next one is a little different than the minimalistic version, but still fairly simple. This one has, in addition to the issue summary, the issue key, which is a link, and then you have the priority icon as well. Next one, you have simple with status. Now, in addition to the three items, that is issue key, priority icon, summary, we are also displaying the status of the issue in this template. These are what we call as sequential templates. When you switch to the next one, even this one is a sequential template, but it has some additional data points. So for example, this includes the entire description for each one of the items that are included in your given release. So I was talking about the layout. If you notice, this one has a tabular layout and all the other ones had sequential layout. So it's completely possible to format your release notes according to what fits your branding needs or even end user needs. In this specific template, you would notice I'm pulling in information from custom fields, which is hosting is a custom field. I'm also grouping this information based on another custom field called add-on. I'm also showing if there are any linked issues with the given issue that's released in there. So I can pull out any kind of information as long as it's available from Jira. And you might even notice on the top left hand corner, it mentions last 7-day activity. So what that means is you have the capability to generate these reports which are not really associated with a specific fixed version. You can just pass on the JQL that retrieves issues that are associated with the last 7-day activity, and accordingly the relevant information will be pulled in. So that was just the PDF templates that I showed you, but you can generate the same kind of behavior for email as well as HTML template. JSON templates, of course, do not have any styling. They are just the data points that you are going to pass on from ARN to other system to consume that data. Another special integration that we have in place is Confluence, right? So you're able to post these release notes directly to Confluence without spending a lot of time on this. So again, similar to what we did for the PDF templates, you can have a similar kind of Confluence template. So I'm just going to open up one of the Confluence templates that's already created, and you'll notice again the look and feel is exactly similar to how the templates are created. You'll notice format, tabular, sequential, what data points are pulled in. So all of this you can configure on your own. Now let's look at how this looks like when viewed in Confluence. Give me a second. Okay, anyway, let's worry about that in a couple of minutes. These are the different types of templates that you create, and then you have these different rules, right? So rule is something that's going to trigger different actions based on different triggers that are configured. So let's look at this one here that says manual rule test. Rather than creating a new one, let me just refresh this. Okay, navigating to the rule back again. So here you'll notice there are a handful of triggers. There is a manual trigger, there is a version release trigger, there is a scheduled before end days of release trigger, and then you have scheduled at interval and a webhook. Let me explain to you this one by one very quickly. So manual release trigger is when someone comes in and triggers this rule. Version release is something that's triggered whenever a version is marked as released within Jira. Scheduled before end days of release. So, for example, here if you pass the value as 5, what this will do is it will check whether there are any releases due 5 days from now, and based on that release, it will trigger the release notes. Scheduled at interval is something that you can trigger for every week, every day, whatever your frequency is required. Mind you, though, when you're scheduling at interval, the template should not have any fixed version associated with it, because here you're not passing any information that's related to fixed version. So specific use cases are, for example, activity in the last 7 days, activity in the last 15 days, which does not require any kind of fixed version. And then you also have webhooks. Once you save this, a unique URL will be available to you, which will essentially be a webhook that can be triggered from an external tool. Now, once you've decided the trigger, from the left hand side, you can add multiple actions within each one of the routes. So you can add an email action. So, for example, let's call this internal notification. You can choose, let's say, default templates. Now, you can also attach the PDF release notes here. Of course, that's optional. What will happen is the PDF release notes that are generated will be attached to the email. You can similarly also attach the JSON formatted release notes, and then you can add additional information such as releases at amoeboids.com. You can tell automated release notes, and then you can configure the Jira users, Jira groups. So I can send this to all the software developers, or I can even handpick the email addresses that I want to send release notes to. For example, right? So this is how you configure an email action. Similarly, there are minor nuances around confluence action, post action, widget action. We'll look into those at a later stage in a different video. But in essence, this is how you will configure your rules. So for example, this is a manual rule. If I click on run, I'll be asked to pass on a version. Now, once a rule is triggered, all of its actions will be executed, and you will be able to see the result of those actions under logs. So here you'll notice there is a rule called version release intimation. There is a rule called default rule. This was run on 4th May. This was run on 4th May. 1st of May, 24th of April. So you can see all of this information under logs. When you click on view email, all of the data appears in here. This is a tabular format, and also we have recently stopped utilizing the priority field, and the template is an older one. That's why the priority field is empty. So earlier I was referring to this. Some of the sample release notes generated via ARN onto Confluence. So let's look at them one by one. The templates are exactly the same that I showed you earlier for PDF release notes. So you'll see logo, name of the version, then release date, title, number of issues involved, summary of the issue. So you'll be able to generate something similar even for Confluence. Additionally, the important part is you can also insert some macros that are specific to Confluence. So for example, you can insert properties macro, you can insert table of contents macros, you can insert I think excerpt macros. So there are some special macros that you can utilize within Confluence templates that are of course not available for other types of templates. So in a nutshell, this is ARN. It's supposed to help you figure out the most efficient way to utilize time of your team members, to generate release notes that do not have any manual errors, and to ensure that relevant audience receives only the information that they are interested in. Now feel free to navigate to our marketplace listing on Atlassian. So you'll be able to see reviews, you'll be able to see pricing, you'll also have a few more screenshots that might help you understand how the product works. And the most important part, automated release notes is available for all the three versions: cloud, server, and data center. If you have any questions, just refer to our knowledge base, or you can even reach out to us via our service desk. Hope that was helpful. Thank you for your time.